Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. We're jumping right in today, because if you're someone who values crystal clear professional communication, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're unpacking a literal masterclass in organizational identity, the DPED, that's the Department of Education, Manual of Style, 2018 edition. Whether you're just drafting a quick interoffice memo or pushing out a massive regional policy, this manual, it's your ultimate tool. It's not just about, where to put a comma. It's about all of us speaking with one unified voice.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The DepEd Manual of Style, or DMOS, isn't just some document that got slapped together overnight. No way. It's a huge milestone. We're talking about the product of years of rigorous research, extensive consultation, and validation, all spearheaded by the Public Affairs Service Publications Division. It establishes incredible authority right out of the gate, setting the absolute gold standard for every single piece of communication that leaves a DepEd office.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. People hear style manual and instantly picture strict constraints, or someone wielding a giant red pen over their draft. But let's actually reframe that. Secretary Leonor Mactolis-Briones put it beautifully in the foreword. She sees this as a tool for empowerment. It's all about building identity and credibility. Think about it. When an organization of this massive scale uses a unified style, it projects this powerful, undeniable culture of excellence to partners, stakeholders, and the public.
So here's our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. Purpose of the manual. 2. Principles of effective writing. 3. The DepEd house style. 4. Mastering abbreviations and numbers. And finally, 5. Eliminating redundancy and jargon. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Section 1, Purpose of the Manual, building a unified organizational voice.
So you might actually be asking yourself, why is an 82-page grammar and formatting manual so absolutely crucial for personnel spread out across so many different regions? Well, standardizing our grammar, punctuation, and formats isn't just about being picky. It directly reflects the department's strategic priorities. When a document from a school in one region looks, sounds, and reads with the exact same professional polish as a memo from the central office, that builds immense institutional trust. Every standardized comma, every capitalized letter, it all contributes to that broader culture of excellence in delivering education to Filipino learners.
Moving on to Section 2, Principles of Effective Writing, the Foundation of Professional Communication.
Look, before we even try to memorize specific hyphenation laws, we really need a solid philosophy of what makes writing actually work. Enter the 7 C's of effective business writing: clarity, conciseness, completeness, concreteness, consistency, coherence, and courtesy. So the crucial point here is that your writing isn't just about dumping data on a page. It's about making the reading experience as effortless as possible for your audience. When you write with concreteness and coherence, you don't confuse the reader. When you write with courtesy, you actively build goodwill with stakeholders. This right here is the foundation everything else is built on.
All right, Section 3, the DepEd house style, defining our unique written identity.
This is where things get highly specific and, honestly, pretty fascinating. How does an organization define its unique written identity? Well, DepEd doesn't just invent rules out of thin air. We use the renowned Chicago Manual of Style, basically the gold standard for American English publishing, as our baseline. But obviously, a massive organization has its own specific, daily operational needs. So, the DepEd house style integrates exceptions tailored strictly for the department. It's this brilliant hybrid of international publishing standards and localized, practical, on-the-ground workplace decisions.
Next up, Section 4. Mastering abbreviations and numbers. Consistency in the details.
Okay, let's roll up our sleeves and look at the micro details that stop confusion in its tracks, especially in highly technical documents. In official issuances, reading fatigue is a real issue. So the rule is to spell out the full term on the very first mention and put the abbreviation right next to it in parentheses. From then on, just use the abbreviation. Notice the example for Republic Act. On that first mention, you include the word no before the number and a lowercase s for series. But in every mention after that, you drop the no completely. It's just so much more efficient.
And then there are numbers, which honestly trip up even the best writers. The standard rule here is actually pretty simple. Spell out numbers from 1 to 9 and use numerals for 10 and above. For larger numbers, anything with 4 or more digits, you need a comma. So 50,000 gets a comma. Also, and this is a really big one, avoid that old habit of writing out a word and then repeating the numeral in parentheses right after it. Like writing 8 and then the number 8 in parentheses. Unless you're drafting a strict legal contract, it's just redundant in standard communication.
And this brilliantly illustrates what to do when numbers get organized into tables, because visual structure really matters here. Notice how the column titles on this table are center-aligned, but the numbers themselves are right-aligned or decimal-aligned, which makes them super easy to scan. Oh, and if you use abbreviations like NGO in your table, you absolutely have to define them in an alphabetical key placed directly below it. Your table should always be able to stand completely on its own.
Which brings us to Section 5, eliminating redundancy and jargon, refining the DepEd voice. All right, this is where we learn how to trim the fat from our sentences for maximum impact. We've all fallen into the trap of using wordy phrases just to sound more official, right? But the DMOS demands clarity. I mean, why say due to the fact that when you can literally just say because? Why write in the near future when soon does the exact same job? We really want to collapse these heavy, repetitive phrases into single, punchy words. You don't lose any meaning. Actually, scratch that. It makes your writing sound way more confident.
And this applies to legal jargon too. The manual strongly advises replacing archaic legalese with direct expressions. Try swapping out hold in abeyance for postpone, or in compliance with for complying with. By modernizing the language, DepEd issuances become infinitely more accessible to the public, to parents, and to stakeholders who just need to understand the policy, without needing a law degree to do it. Let's do a rapid-fire look at some specific spelling and hyphenation preferences. It is face-to-face, no hyphens. School children is all one word. Non-DepEd, however, does require a hyphen. It's also definitely worth noting that DepEd strictly uses American English spelling as the rule. So we're going to use program instead of the British program, and color instead of color.
Now, this next part is incredibly important. The manual dictates a strict rule to use gender-neutral and politically correct language. So we no longer use businessman or chairman. Instead, we use businessperson and chairperson, and rather than saying disabled, we say person with disability. This is absolutely crucial to ensure that every single official document respects all sensibilities and reflects a modern, inclusive department.
Okay, here is a surprising DepEd-specific exception to keep your eye out for. While we do use American English generally, the House style specifically prefers the spelling of trainer with an ER instead of an OR, and advisor also with an ER. Plus, email is written as one fluid word, never ever hyphenated. These are those unique little markers of the true DepEd voice.
Here's a really common formatting pitfall, but it's easily fixed. According to the manual, periods and commas should always, and I mean always, be placed inside the closing quotation marks. I know it might feel kind of counterintuitive to some of us, but keeping that punctuation tucked neatly inside the quotes, that is the prescribed standard.
For a quick visual polish, especially on financial texts, go ahead and drop the H and the P when writing Philippine currency. Just use a capital P right next to the number, like P500, with 0 spaces in between. And when you're using an M dash to break up a sentence, the long dash, make sure there are no spaces before or after it. It just keeps the text looking incredibly tight and professional.
Now, what's really interesting about this is it gives us a great final rapid-fire checklist of common mechanical rules. If you're referring to DepEd simply as the department, always use an uppercase D. Always italicize non-English terms and provide the translation on the first mention. If you need to emphasize something in an official issuance, use boldface, never underline it. And in your data tables, consistently round your numbers to 2 decimal places.
One of the most beautiful things about this manual is that it actually recognizes that language is not static. It's a living, breathing thing. The creators of the DMS understood that as modern communication standards evolve, the manual is going to evolve right alongside them. It'll be updated from time to time as needed. It's designed for continuous improvement, making sure the department never falls behind the times.
So, what does this all mean? Well, the rules we've covered today, from commas to capitalization to conciseness, they aren't just academic exercises. They are the literal building blocks of an institution's credibility. So, I'm going to leave you with this question. Does your next official document actually reflect a unified, professional DepEd identity? I highly encourage you to consult the DMOS 2018 edition for your next draft. Take those micro rules, turn them into macro impact, and keep communicating with absolute excellence. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.